In the misty dawn of Britain's past, young princes and princesses gazed beyond castle walls, dreaming of oceans uncharted and lands unknown. These heirs were born into privilege, yet their lives were defined by a perilous duality, the weight of dynastic duty and the allure of adventure. From daring explorers who charted the world, edges to leaders who steered the British Empire through storms of war and diplomacy, the royal bloodline was forged in courage, strategy, and relentless ambition. Every voyage, every treaty, every decision carried consequences that would echo through generations, shaping the monarchy's enduring influence. Witness the untold stories of these royals, their victories, their scandals, their personal struggles, and their triumphs that sculpted a nation's destiny. From the earliest days of the British monarchy, exploration and leadership intertwined in ways that defined both the realm and the world beyond. Princes were taught the arts of governance, diplomacy, and strategy, but they were also instilled with a yearning for discovery. The crown demanded duty, but the horizon called to those bold enough to answer. Henry VIII, though infamous for his domestic and religious upheavals, exemplified the royal appetite for power beyond borders. His naval laid foundations for future exploration. Elizabeth Isecord, meanwhile, nurtured adventurers like Sir Francis Drake and Walter Raleigh, whose daring voyages expanded Britain's influence across oceans, planting the seeds of an empire yet to come. The royal upbringing was rigorous. Education in history, languages, military strategy, and etiquette was accompanied by lessons in observation and decision-making. Even as children, princes and princesses were aware that every action, every word, every glance carried weight. They learned from tutors, counselors, and the legacies of forebears, internalizing the lesson that the monarchy's power was both symbol and instrument. Leadership was never abstract. It was a tangible force that could alter alliances, provoke rebellions, or secure peace. Yet ambition carried danger. The line between heroism and recklessness was thin. Voyages of discovery brought wealth, prestige, and knowledge, but they also brought shipwreck, disease, and death. Royals who embraced the call to adventure had to balance audacity with prudence, for a failed expedition could weaken their standing at home and abroad. Letters from explorers often revealed the anxieties of sovereigns, the tension between curiosity and caution, ambition and legacy, duty and desire. Every decision was a test of character, shaping not only the individual but the monarchy itself. Relations with foreign powers were equally crucial. Diplomatic marriages, alliances, and rivalries demanded a delicate mix of strategy and performance. Monarchs learned that charisma, judgment, and patience were as vital as military strength. Queen Elizabeth's support of privateers against Spain, though politically risky, showcased the monarchy's ability to manipulate international events from a seemingly distant perch. Such actions were not impulsive. They reflected centuries of observation, inherited knowledge, and careful calculation, a tradition passed from generation to generation. Family dynamics further complicated the picture. Sibling rivalries, marriages of convenience, and disputes over succession frequently threatened the stability of the crown. Yet these personal dramas were inseparable from political reality. The monarch's decisions affected not just the family but the nation. Every birth, every death, every alliance resonated with political consequences, requiring discretion and foresight. Royals learned early that leadership demanded the management of both hearts and states, a balancing act of loyalty, ambition, and morality. At court, symbolism was paramount. Ceremonial displays, public appearances, and the very architecture of palaces reinforced authority and presence. Buckingham Palace, Windsor Castle, and earlier royal seats were not merely residences, they were stages upon which the monarchy projected continuity, stability, and grandeur. Visitors, diplomats, and subjects alike understood that every gesture and every ritual signaled power, legitimacy, and the unbroken chain of British sovereignty. The seeds planted in these early years: education, adventure, diplomacy, family dynamics, and ceremonial command shaped the royals, who would later lead Britain into its era of global expansion. It was in this crucible that the British royal family's enduring traits emerged: courage in exploration, wisdom in governance, adaptability in crises. and the ability to inspire loyalty and awe by blending personal ambition with national purpose. The monarchy cultivated leaders capable of extending Britain's influence worldwide. These early lessons in navigation, diplomacy, and statecraft became the foundation for centuries of empire building, guiding future generations as they faced wars, revolutions, and the pressures of modernity. The British royal family's story is thus not merely one of privilege but of resilience, strategic vision, and an enduring commitment to both duty and discovery. From these early days of daring exploration to the commanding presence of modern leaders, the monarchy's legacy is a testament to the fusion of courage, intellect, and adaptability, a legacy that continues to define Britain and inspire the world. As the British royal family navigated the waters of empire and influence, the question of succession became one of the most potent forces shaping the monarchy. From the Tudors to the Windsors, each generation faced the delicate balance of personal ambition, family loyalty, and political stability. A crown was never merely an inheritance. It was a burden, a symbol of national unity, and a target for intrigue. The death of a monarch, the birth of an heir, or even rumors of illegitimacy could ripple through courts, parliaments, and continents, setting the stage for conflict or consolidation. Henry VIII's establishment of the Church of England exemplified the fusion of personal desire with political necessity. His break from Rome was both a declaration of independence and a practical maneuver to secure his dynastic legacy. The ripples of this decision extended far beyond England, reshaping alliances and trade across Europe. Similarly, Elizabeth I, navigating the perils of her gender in a patriarchal society, maintained her throne through a mix of calculated alliances, strategic marriages of convenience within her council, and the careful cultivation of her image as the Virgin Queen. Each decision was meticulously planned, reflecting the delicate interplay between personal circumstance and national consequence. Family dynamics often complicated succession. Sibling rivalries, contested marriages, and internal disputes frequently threatened stability. Edward VI, Mary I, and Elizabeth I navigated these tensions with varying degrees of success, demonstrating that the monarchy demanded a combination of diplomacy, intellect, and political acumen. Even minor disagreements within the royal family could escalate into national crises. The careful management of heirs, tutors, and court factions was essential to prevent civil unrest or opportunistic plots by rival claimants. Royal education played a central role in preparing heirs for these challenges. Princes and princesses were schooled in languages, military strategy, history, and etiquette. They learned not only the art of governance, but also the subtleties of perception, how to project authority, inspire loyalty, and command respect without overtly displaying force. Observation became as crucial as instruction, with younger royals learning from the triumphs and failures of their predecessors. Court advisors, diplomats, and tutors formed a protective yet influential network, guiding heirs through the complexities of succession while subtly shaping their perspectives. Diplomacy remained intertwined with succession. Marriages were political tools as much as personal unions, designed to secure alliances, reinforce trade relations, and prevent wars. The marriage of James VI of Scotland to and of Denmark exemplified this blend of political pragmatism and personal negotiation. Royals were constantly aware that their private lives were inextricably linked to national interest. Every courtship, every engagement, every public appearance could shift the balance of power, both domestically and internationally. Conflict and rebellion were never far from royal life. Monarchs like Charles I faced the ultimate test of their authority when political factions challenged their decisions, leading to civil war and, in his case, execution. These crises revealed the fragile equilibrium of royal power, authority that relied not only on hereditary right, but also on legitimacy, perception, and the loyalty of both the nobility and the people. Monarchs who failed to navigate these treacherous waters risked not only their thrones, but the very continuity of their dynasties. Yet, through crisis, the monarchy often emerged stronger. Lessons learned from rebellion, diplomatic missteps, or succession disputes strengthened institutional knowledge and reinforced traditions that would endure for centuries. Symbolic ceremonies, the subtle exercise of influence, and the careful management of heirs became tools for resilience. Monarchs who survived turmoil cultivated a reputation for wisdom and stability, cementing their authority while preserving the crown for future generations. Exploration and empire building continued alongside domestic challenges. As British influence expanded across the globe, the monarchy played a critical role in sanctioning expeditions, funding naval ventures, and endorsing colonial administration. Royals understood that their authority extended not only within England's borders, but across territories that would form the foundation of a global empire. Their decisions affected trade, diplomacy, and culture on a scale unprecedented in European history. Personal character remained central to royal effectiveness. Courage, prudence, charisma, and adaptability defy successful monarchs. Public perception was carefully managed through pageantry, speeches, and patronage of the arts, creating an aura of legitimacy and stability. Monarchs were symbols as much as rulers, embodying national identity while navigating the complexities of governance. Their lives were a delicate choreography of private ambition and public duty, with every misstep scrutinized by advisors, subjects, and foreign powers alike. By the end of this era, the British royal family had refined an extraordinary balance, the ability to maintain continuity through turbulent times while cultivating the traits necessary for global leadership. Succession crisis, family rivalries, and political intrigue had honed a system of resilience that allowed the monarchy to endure, adapt, and expand. Each generation inherited not only a crown but the accumulated knowledge of centuries, an inheritance that combined tradition, strategy, and a profound understanding of human nature. In this crucible of duty, diplomacy, and destiny, the royal family emerged as both leaders and symbols of Britain's identity, prepared to face the challenges of empire, revolution, and modernity with a blend of courage, wisdom, and unwavering ambition. The groundwork laid during these formative periods ensured that the monarchy would remain a central, enduring force in British life, capable of navigating the shifting currents of history while retaining its legendary prestige. As Britain's influence stretched across continents, the royal family became both a symbol and an instrument of imperial power. Monarchs understood that their role extended far beyond ceremonial duties. They were architects of empire, patrons of exploration, and arbiters of international diplomacy. The rise of British naval supremacy in the 17th and 18th centuries provided opportunities for monarchs to project influence, enforce alliances, and secure trade routes. Critical to national prosperity, Queen Anne's reign, for example, coincided with the Act of Union in 1707, uniting England and Scotland under a single crown. This political consolidation was more than administrative. It was a statement of national strength and stability. Royals leveraged marriages, patronage, and ceremonial authority to cultivate loyalty among nobles and foreign powers alike. Their presence legitimized treaties, sanctioned colonial enterprises, and subtly influenced the geopolitical balance of Europe and beyond. Royal support for explorers and navigators like Captain Cook and Sir Francis Drake illustrated the fusion of ambition and stature. Expeditions carried the dual purpose of discovering new lands and securing Britain's position in global trade. Monarchs endorsed these ventures, knowing that each successful journey expanded not only territorial holdings, but also national prestige. Their approval was a form of soft power and invisible hand-shaping empires without drawing public scrutiny or parliamentary debate. Dynastic marriages continued to play a pivotal role in diplomacy. Royal unions between Britain and continental powers were carefully calculated to secure alliances, prevent wars, and extend influence. The marriage of George I's children into German principalities exemplified this strategy, intertwining familial ties with political advantage. These relationships reinforced Britain's position in Europe, demonstrating the subtle yet profound role of the royal family in global politics. Yet, empire brought responsibility and risk. Colonial administration required attention to distant territories, balancing local governance with imperial policy. Monarchs relied on governors, ministers, and diplomats to maintain order, mediate disputes, and enforce the crown's authority. Mismanagement or rebellion in colonies could tarnish royal prestige and destabilize economies. Royals understood that their symbolic presence was essential, but practical oversight demanded a complex network of trusted officials. The American Revolution provided a striking example of royal influence, tested by distant challenges. King George III faced criticism for his policies. Yet his role was more than autocratic. It reflected the tension between inherited authority and emergent political structures. Advisors, ministers, and the king himself navigated a landscape of competing loyalties, colonial expectations, and international scrutiny. The loss of the American colonies was both a setback and a lesson in the limits of royal power when confronted by organized opposition. Diplomatic finesse became a defining feature of royal leadership. Ambassadors were carefully selected, ceremonies meticulously planned, and public appearances orchestrated to convey authority, legitimacy, and sophistication. Monarchs were skilled in the language of symbolism. Crowns, robes, and ceremonies communicated power across borders, often more effectively than treaties or armies. A king or queen's personal charisma could influence negotiations, sway opinions, and secure alliances without overt coercion. Domestically, monarchs leveraged empire to reinforce national pride. Military victories, colonial acquisitions, and scientific achievements were celebrated in ceremonies, portraits, and public events. Royals understood that the perception of strength and continuity at home bolstered influence abroad. Their role as cultural patrons supporting the arts, sciences, and literature also reinforced Britain's image as a sophisticated, enlightened empire. Challenges arose not only from external pressures but also from internal divisions. Rivalries within the family, disputes among ministers, and political factionalism required careful navigation. The monarchy's survival depended on balancing these internal tensions while projecting stability to the public and abroad. Diplomacy was as much a domestic skill as an international one, requiring tact, discretion, and an understanding of human ambition. By the 19th century, the British royal family had refined an extraordinary capacity to integrate symbolism, strategy, and personal influence. Monarchs like Queen Victoria embodied this balance, combining public visibility with private discretion, ceremonial authority with moral guidance, and domestic governance with global oversight. Her reign exemplified the power of a monarchy capable of shaping culture, politics, and diplomacy simultaneously, guiding the empire through industrialization, social change, and expanding territories. Through centuries of exploration, conflict, and negotiation, the royal family solidified its role as a cornerstone of national identity and global influence. Their ability to adapt, to maintain continuity, and to leverage personal authority alongside institutional structures ensured that the crown remained relevant even as the world evolved around it. In every expedition, treaty, and ceremony, the monarchy reinforced its enduring legacy, uniting tradition with strategy, authority with diplomacy, and national pride with global ambition. Even as the British Empire expanded, the monarchy faced profound internal and external challenges that tested its resilience and adaptability. Revolution, reform, and societal change demanded that the royal family navigate treacherous political waters, balancing the preservation of tradition with the pressures of modern governance. The late 18th and early 19th centuries were particularly volatile, with the echoes of the French Revolution sending shockwaves across Europe. Monarchs watched anxiously as republican ideals threatened not only foreign crowns, but also inspired unrest within Britain itself. King George III's later reign became emblematic of the pressures on a monarch in times of turmoil. His bouts of illness and eventual mental decline revealed the vulnerabilities of inherited power. Yet even as he struggled personally, George III remained a symbol of stability, his presence offering reassurance to a nation unsettled by political factionalism, economic uncertainty, and international threats. The king's advisors, ministers, and family members acted in concert to maintain continuity, illustrating the collaborative nature of royal governance behind the public facade. During this period, Britain also confronted demands for political reform, calls for expanded suffrage, fair representation, and parliamentary accountability challenged centuries of established hierarchy. The monarchy could not ignore these movements without risking public alienation. Royals carefully engaged in a subtle diplomacy supporting reforms that strengthened the nation while avoiding overt involvement in partisan debates. Their influence was most potent in shaping the pace and tone of change, ensuring that transitions reinforced stability rather than chaos. Wars abroad further complicated the monarchy's role. The Napoleonic Wars demanded unity, sacrifice, and leadership. Royals were expected to inspire the nation through personal example, public appearances, and support for military campaigns. Princes and princesses often took on ceremonial and charitable duties, visiting troops, endorsing relief efforts, and symbolizing national resolve. Their actions reinforced the monarchy's visibility and legitimacy, demonstrating that the crown was not merely a distant figurehead but an integral part of the social and moral fabric of Britain. Personal lives of monarchs were equally scrutinized. Marriages, scandals, and family disputes played out on a public stage, intertwining private struggles with national perception. The royal household had to navigate these tensions delicately, preserving dignity and continuity while managing the expectations of a scrutinizing public and an evolving press. Royals learned to wield discretion as a tool of survival, understanding that even minor indiscretions could ripple through society, affecting loyalty, morale, and the perception of authority. Industrialization introduced another layer of complexity. As Britain's cities expanded and economic structures transformed, the monarchy adapted by positioning itself as a moral and cultural anchor. Patronage of the arts, sciences, and philanthropic initiatives became key strategies for maintaining. Monarchs promoted education, healthcare, and civic engagement, subtly reinforcing the crown's role as a unifying force. By linking tradition with progress, the royal family bridged the gap between centuries-old institutions and a rapidly modernizing society. Colonial governance during times of reform was also a delicate balancing act. Revolts in India, Ireland, and the Caribbean required tactful management. Monarchs communicated authority through appointments, ceremonial and diplomatic correspondence, while leaving operational control to governors and colonial administrators. Their symbolic presence reinforced legitimacy, reminding subjects that the crown stood above political quarrels and local dissent. The monarchy's influence extended far beyond British shores, a testament to centuries of careful cultivation of power and respect. In the realm of diplomacy, marriages continued to serve as instruments of stability. Alliances with European powers, arranged unions with colonial elites, and carefully chosen social interactions solidified Britain's position on the global stage. Royals demonstrated that personal relationships could serve national interests, blending emotional, cultural, and political considerations in ways that reinforced long-term influence. Despite challenges, the monarchy emerged from this era with a strengthened understanding of adaptability. Survival depended on a dual mastery of public symbolism and private strategy, presenting unity, continuity, and moral authority while negotiating crises behind closed doors. Monarchs learned to temper personal desires with national responsibility, understanding that their legacy depended on both perception and policy. By the mid-19th century, the British royal family had transformed into a modern institution capable of guiding an empire through revolution, reform, and industrialization. Their ability to remain above partisan conflict, to engage and to project cultural authority ensured that the crown maintained relevance, even as society evolved dramatically. The lessons of this era: resilience, discretion, and strategic adaptability would echo through future reigns, shaping the monarchy's approach to the challenges of modern governance and global leadership. By the late 19th century, the British monarchy had firmly established itself as the symbolic and cultural backbone of an empire stretching across continents. Queen Victoria's long reign epitomized this era, intertwining personal devotion, political subtlety, and imperial oversight into a tapestry that defined modern monarchy. The Queen became not only a sovereign but a symbol of moral authority, stability, and national pride, her presence linking the far-flung corners of the empire to London. Through her, subjects across Asia, Africa, and the Americas perceived continuity and legitimacy in British rule, even as local governance operated largely through colonial administrators. Victoria's court was a hub of diplomacy and strategy. State visits, ceremonial openings, and royal tours were meticulously orchestrated, each movement carrying political weight. Diplomats were acutely aware that their audiences with the Queen could influence trade agreements, military alliances, and colonial administration. While decisions were ultimately executed by parliament and ministers, the monarchy's subtle input shaped through personal correspondence, private counsel, and symbolic gestures helped guide policy with an almost invisible hand. The expansion of the British Empire brought both prestige and peril. Military campaigns in Africa, Asia, and the Pacific required coordination and moral support from the crown. Royals often participated in ceremonial recognition of military victories, award ceremonies, and philanthropic activities supporting veterans and their families. These acts strengthened the emotional bond between monarch and subjects, reinforcing loyalty and pride while simultaneously projecting Britain's image as a stable and benevolent global power. At home, the royal family cultivated an image of dignity and domestic virtue. Queen Victoria's marriage to Prince Albert set a precedent for personal conduct, emphasizing family values, charitable work, and cultural patronage. Their children were carefully positioned across European courts through strategic marriages, strengthening Britain's influence abroad while solidifying the monarchy's international status. These familial networks acted as silent instruments of diplomacy, ensuring that royal alliances translated into tangible political and cultural influence. Industrialization and urbanization transformed British society, creating new social classes, technological innovations, and economic challenges. The monarchy adapted by becoming visible champions of progress, supporting scientific societies, arts institutions, and charitable endeavors. This public engagement reinforced the crown's relevance, bridging centuries-old tradition with the modern aspirations of a rapidly changing population. By embracing these roles, the royal family avoided alienation from an increasingly literate, politically aware, and socially mobile citizenry. Yet, empire was never without controversy. Colonial uprisings, famine, and political unrest tested the monarchy's diplomatic skill. The Queen's responses were carefully measured through public addresses, ceremonial gestures, and private counsel, ensuring that authority was asserted without provoking rebellion. Royals embodied the principles of paternalistic governance, cultivating loyalty and compliance through presence and symbolism rather than overt coercion. This strategy maintained Britain's global reach while minimizing direct confrontation, a testament to centuries of refined political acumen. Social reform also became intertwined with monarchy. The crown's support of education, healthcare, and social welfare projects reinforced the idea that the monarchy was a custodian not only of political power, but of social responsibility. Visits to hospitals, schools, and charitable institutions projected compassion and moral leadership, further embedding the royal family within the national psyche. By embodying these values, the monarchy demonstrated adaptability, evolving its symbolic role to meet the expectations of a society increasingly aware of social inequities. Internationally, the Queen's diplomatic marriages continued to shape European politics. Her children and grandchildren were married into ruling families across Germany, Russia, and Scandinavia, creating a web of kinship that subtly influenced diplomacy and conflict. These relationships were complex. While some alliances provided stability, others became entangled in national rivalries, foreshadowing the tensions that would erupt into global conflict. Yet the monarchy's presence in these networks reinforced Britain's prominence on the world stage, allowing influence to extend far beyond its physical territories. The late 19th century also witnessed the rise of mass media, which brought unprecedented scrutiny to royal life. The monarchy learned to manage public perception carefully, cultivating an image of integrity, morality, and cultural sophistication. Photographs, newspaper accounts, and public ceremonies conveyed both continuity and accessibility, shaping perceptions of the crown as a living institution attuned to its people while remaining a bastion of tradition. Through this era, the monarchy balanced ceremonial grandeur with strategic subtlety, domestic visibility with international influence. It emerged as a unifying symbol for a diverse, sprawling empire, projecting stability and legitimacy amid rapid social, economic, and political change. The lessons of Victoria's reign: diplomatic acumen, moral authority, and careful engagement with societal transformation would define the British monarchy's approach for generations, ensuring resilience and relevance well into the 20th century. The 20th century thrust the British monarchy into an era of unparalleled challenge and transformation. The grandeur of empire faced the harsh realities of global conflict, societal upheaval, and shifting public expectations. World War I marked the first test of the modern monarchy's endurance. King George, who ascended the throne in 1910, faced not only the horrors of unprecedented warfare but also personal and political crises that threatened the crown's credibility. The wars, staggering casualties, economic strain, and political unrest demanded visible leadership. George V's decision to visit troops, hospitals, and war-torn communities exemplified the monarchy's evolving role as a symbol of resilience and national unity. Amidst the war, the monarchy confronted a crisis of identity. Anti-German sentiment, inflamed by conflict, compelled George V to rename the royal house from Saxe-Coburg and Gotha to Windsor, signaling both a political gesture and a symbolic realignment with British national sentiment. This move preserved the monarchy's legitimacy at a time when public opinion could have eroded centuries of inherited authority. The decision reflected a growing awareness that survival required adaptability, a willingness to engage with national sentiment, and strategic public relations, a lesson modern monarchs would carry forward. Post-war Britain presented further tests. Economic hardship, labor strikes, and the rise of republican movements in the colonies challenged the monarchy's image as a unifying institution. King George V relied heavily on diplomacy, both public and private, to maintain trust. He engaged with political leaders, advised on matters of governance, and exercised his influence subtly, respecting constitutional limits, while ensuring that the monarchy remained central to Britain's identity. The crown's role became increasingly symbolic, yet its moral authority continued to shape national discourse. World War II brought even greater demands. King George VI, unexpectedly thrust onto the throne after Edward VIII's abdication, faced the daunting task of leading a nation under siege. Unlike his predecessors, George VI's reign coincided with mass media's emergence as a tool for shaping public perception. Radio broadcasts, newsreels, and photographs allowed the monarchy to communicate directly with the people. The King and Queen's decision to remain in London during the Blitz, visiting bombed neighborhoods and interacting with citizens, reinforced a sense of solidarity, courage, and shared sacrifice. These acts elevated the monarchy's moral statute, demonstrating that symbolic leadership could wield real emotional power during crises. Edward VIII's abdication in 1936 had already exposed the vulnerabilities of royal life, revealing tensions between personal desire and institutional duty. The scandal shocked Britain and the world, yet it also underscored a crucial principle: monarchy's survival depended on the careful balancing of private passions against public expectations. George VI's subsequent adherence to duty, often at personal cost, restored confidence in the crown, reinforcing its reputation as a stabilizing institution in turbulent times. Simultaneously, the empire itself began to transform. Independence movements across India, Africa, and the Caribbean challenged the monarchy to adapt from being the head of a global empire to the symbolic figure of a commonwealth of nations. Royals participated in diplomatic tours, ceremonies, and negotiations, lending authority and legitimacy to newly independent states, while preserving Britain's global influence. These engagements demanded both subtlety and empathy, requiring the monarchy to navigate delicate post-colonial politics without undermining Britain's interests. On the domestic front, societal modernization demanded adjustments in royal protocol, public engagement, and personal conduct. King George VI and Queen Elizabeth, later known as the Queen Mother, modeled humility, service, and accessibility, participating in charitable work, public events, and educational initiatives. Their efforts demonstrated that monarchy could remain relevant in an era of mass communication, social mobility, and political democratization. By blending ceremonial grandeur with human relatability, they strengthened the monarchy's emotional connection to the populace. The 20th century also introduced new forms of scrutiny and criticism. The press, radio, and emerging television medium amplified public interest in royal behavior, marriages, and scandals. Every gesture, appearance, or statement carried interpretive weight. The monarchy learned to navigate this environment carefully, balancing transparency with discretion, accessibility with dignity, and tradition with modernity. These lessons would shape the approach of later generations, particularly Queen Elizabeth II, in maintaining relevance while safeguarding centuries-old traditions. By the century's end, the British monarchy had survived wars, abdications, independence movements, and social transformation. Its continued existence relied on adaptability, symbolic authority, and the ability to engage with evolving public expectations. Kings and queens of this era demonstrated that resilience depended not on absolute power but on perception, service, and careful navigation of both political and personal landscapes. The monarchy emerged not unscathed, but enduring an institution simultaneously historical, symbolic, and profoundly human, ready to face the complexities of the modern world. The ascension of Queen Elizabeth II in 1952 marked the beginning of a transformative era for the British monarchy. At just 25 years old, she inherited a realm still recovering from the devastation of World War II and facing the rapid decline of the British Empire. The young queen's reign would span decades, becoming synonymous with stability, resilience, and the careful modernization of royal traditions. From the outset, Elizabeth understood that her role demanded both continuity and evolution, a delicate balance between preserving centuries of ceremony and adapting to the expectations of a changing world. Elizabeth's early years on the throne were defined by diplomatic tours, public engagements, and symbolic acts that reinforced the monarchy's relevance. She traveled extensively, becoming the first reigning British monarch to visit Australia, Canada, and other Commonwealth nations. Each visit served multiple purposes, reaffirming the bonds of empire-turned-commonwealth, boosting morale in post-colonial nations, and demonstrating the monarchy's enduring presence in a rapidly globalizing world. Her speeches were carefully crafted, blending historical gravitas with approachable warmth, projecting authority without authoritarianism. Domestically, Elizabeth II faced the challenge of modernizing the monarchy without undermining its mystique. Television broadcasts of the coronation in 1953 brought the spectacle into millions of living rooms, transforming royal ceremonies into shared national experiences. By embracing mass media, the Queen bridged the gap between tradition and modernity, cultivating an image of accessibility while maintaining the dignity of the crown. She understood that the monarchy's survival depended on public perception as much as on lineage, a lesson rooted in centuries of precedent but executed with 20th century sophistication. Family life, however, was never free from complexity. The Queen's marriage to Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, represented both a partnership of love and a strategic reinforcement of royal stability. Philip's influence on modernization, introducing reforms in protocol, championing charitable initiatives, and advocating for the professionalization of the royal household was pivotal. Yet, the royal family was not immune to personal scandal. The divorces of Elizabeth's children, particularly Charles and Diana's highly publicized separation, exposed the monarchy to unprecedented scrutiny. Public criticism intensified, with media narratives often portraying the royals as distant or out of touch. The Queen responded with measured calm, emphasizing duty, discretion, and the continuity of the crown above personal drama. Political crises also tested Elizabeth's acumen. She navigated changing prime ministers, shifting party landscapes, and debates over Britain's role in global affairs with careful neutrality. Her weekly audiences with the Prime Minister became a cornerstone of constitutional balance, offering counsel and insight without overstepping democratic boundaries. This subtle influence, exercised quietly yet effectively, ensured the monarchy remained a stabilizing force amid political turbulence. Internationally, the Queen's role evolved alongside Britain's diminishing empire. She became the symbolic head of the Commonwealth, fostering relationships with former colonies while respecting their sovereignty. Her reign coincided with the decolonization of Africa, the Caribbean, and Asia, periods that could have weakened Britain's global stature. Through diplomacy, ceremonial visits, and engagement with emerging nations, Elizabeth II transformed the monarchy from a symbol of imperial power into one of global continuity, cultural connection, and mutual respect. Elizabeth II also championed the monarchy's cultural and charitable relevance. Patronage of hospitals, educational institutions, arts organizations, and humanitarian initiatives reinforced the crown's moral authority. By visibly supporting causes that resonated with the public, she underscored the monarchy's role as a unifying, socially responsible institution. These actions helped reshape public perception, demonstrating that tradition could coexist with tangible social impact. The Queen's adaptability extended to internal reforms as well. She modernized court practices, streamlined royal engagements, and increasingly allowed transparency in ceremonial and administrative matters. The introduction of televised addresses, public appearances at major national events, and greater access to royal estates fostered a sense of connection with the populace. Yet, she carefully preserved the mystique of monarchy, balancing openness with ceremonial reverence, a duality that became a hallmark of her reign. By the late 20th century, Queen Elizabeth II had solidified the monarchy's position as both a historical institution and a contemporary symbol. She embodied continuity amid change, navigating personal trials, family controversies, political upheaval, and social transformation with remarkable composure. Her reign demonstrated that monarchy's enduring power lay not in coercion but in symbolism, service, and the ability to adapt without sacrificing identity. As the longest-reigning British monarch, Elizabeth II bridged the gap between past and present, ensuring that the crown remained relevant, respected, and deeply intertwined with both national and global identity. She exemplified the delicate art of modern monarchy, preserving centuries-old traditions while engaging with contemporary challenges, transforming public perception, and leaving a legacy of stability, duty, and quiet influence that would guide the royal family into the 21st century. The dawn of the 21st century brought both challenges and opportunities for the British monarchy. As the world grew increasingly interconnected, media scrutiny intensified, and societal values shifted. The royal family faced pressures unprecedented in its history. Queen Elizabeth II, now a seasoned sovereign, continued to provide stability while guiding younger generations toward understanding the delicate balance of tradition and modernity. Her leadership emphasized that the monarchy's relevance depended not only on heritage but also on its ability to resonate with contemporary society. The tragic death of Princess Diana in 1997 had shaken public confidence and revealed vulnerabilities within the royal household. The Queen, initially criticized for a perceived lack of emotional responsiveness, adapted by openly acknowledging public grief, attending memorial services, and embracing media channels to communicate directly with citizens. This marked a turning point, signaling a new era of transparency and emotional intelligence in royal communication. The monarchy learned to navigate both public adoration and scrutiny, recognizing that its legitimacy rested on the consent and affection of the people. Prince Charles emerged as a central figure in the monarchy's modernization efforts. His charitable initiatives, environmental advocacy, and international diplomacy reflected a new vision of royal responsibility, one that extended beyond ceremonial duties. Similarly, Prince William and Prince Harry represented a generational shift, combining tradition with public engagement. They harnessed digital platforms, global media, and philanthropic work to remain relevant in a world defined by speed, connectivity, and social consciousness. Yet personal conflicts, including Harry and Meghan's departure from frontline royal duties, highlighted the tension between family autonomy and institutional expectations. These events tested the monarchy's adaptability while reaffirming the importance of strategic communication and measured discretion. The monarchy's global role continued to evolve. Commonwealth relationships required careful diplomacy, balancing historical ties with contemporary sovereignty. Elizabeth II and her successors navigated these complexities with symbolic gestures, state visits, and collaborative initiatives, fostering goodwill while acknowledging past imperial legacies. The royal family's cultural diplomacy extended through education, charity, and symbolic acts that reinforced Britain's soft power on the international stage. Within the United Kingdom, societal change prompted institutional reforms. The monarchy embraced charitable partnerships, environmental initiatives, and cultural engagement to remain aligned with evolving public values. Transparency in finances, succession planning, and royal engagements increased public trust. Ceremonial events, such as jubilees and weddings, were transformed into national celebrations that reinforced identity. While demonstrating adaptability, technology, including live broadcasts and social media, allowed the monarchy to reach global audiences without compromising dignity. Despite these transformations, the monarchy remained deeply rooted in centuries of tradition, coronations, state openings of parliament, and royal protocols preserved continuity, connecting the present with a lineage stretching back over a millennium. These rituals reminded the nation of its history, heritage, and enduring institutions, even as the royals engaged with a rapidly changing world. The duality of adaptation and preservation became a defining characteristic of the modern monarchy, ensuring both relevance and legitimacy. Elizabeth II's passing marked the end of an era, yet her legacy continued through her successors. The monarchy emerged resilient, guided by lessons of discretion, duty, and symbolic power. King Charles III inherited not only a crown but a nuanced institution capable of navigating public scrutiny, global diplomacy, and domestic expectations. His reign, alongside younger royals, would continue the delicate art of balancing personal expression with institutional stability. In reflecting on the 21st century monarchy, it becomes clear that its power lies less in authority and more in symbolism, service, and adaptability. The royal family's ability to endure centuries of political upheaval, social transformation, and global change stems from a keen understanding of perception, loyalty, and relevance. The crown remains an anchor of national identity, a symbol of historical continuity, and a living institution capable of evolving without sacrificing its essence. The British monarchy today embodies the intersection of history and modernity, carrying forward centuries of tradition while engaging with contemporary values. Its influence spans culture, diplomacy, and public life, and its legacy is defined by both resilience and the capacity to inspire. The lessons of the past adaptation, strategic discretion, and public engagement ensure that the royal family remains a cornerstone of British identity, guiding the nation through the complexities of the modern world with quiet strength and enduring symbolism. Ultimately, the British monarchy's story is one of continuity and transformation. From medieval dynasties to modern global influence, it has survived wars, political upheavals, personal scandals, and societal change. Its endurance is a testament to the careful stewardship of each generation of monarchs who balanced duty with humanity, tradition with innovation, and authority with service. The crown's legacy continues to shape British history, culture, and international presence, proving that while empires may fall, the symbolic power of monarchy can endure across centuries.